Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Hollywood panics as woke movie studio gets permanently shut down. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Coming from The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "To have them disappear is devastating. Documentary filmmakers reckon with participants' abrupt end." For issues-focused creators, the Jeff Skoll-backed company was an ally, a champion, and deep-pocketed backer willing to tackle tough subjects in an increasingly commercialized nonfiction environment. You could go to this guy Jeff Skoll, who's a billionaire, and get him to finance your projects. Not anymore. He's figured out he's got better ways to waste his billions. From thedailywire.com, post-strike Hollywood goes into panic mode, and rightly so. Pretty much everyone has heard of An Inconvenient Truth, the climate change movie by former Vice President Al Gore. This is the studio that financed it and put it out. The sudden end of participant media came as a shock to many in the entertainment industry, but it hit documentary filmmakers particularly hard, with some concern that backers for serious-minded, issue-driven projects are becoming ever more scarce. Because an issue-driven project is not going to make money. It's just propaganda. Of course, the issues they're pushing are woke issues. They're, quote, progressive issues. They're issues that people don't necessarily care that much about, but they're trying to push their agenda. Since its founding in 2004, the company, which sought to bring stories that could spark change to a wide audience, has been a staunch supporter of documentaries focused on social and justice issues funded by the largesse of a billionaire, ex-eBay president Jeff Skoll. That's this guy. This is his photograph from the website. He has kind of a strange look about him, but he's not going to finance these movies anymore, so that's a positive. None of its other nonfiction titles quite achieved the heights of 2006's An Inconvenient Truth, released just 2 years after the company was formed. The Davis Guggenheim-directed film about Al Gore's climate change slideshow rocked to become the third highest-grossing documentary ever at the time and focused mainstream attention on climate change, inspiring studies about its impact. Quote, "That's why we exist," Skoll told The Hollywood Reporter in 2006 as Truth became a sensation, to help some of these projects get made, to reach audiences, and to make a difference in the world. His movie studio participants' documentaries got awards, provoked sustained media attention, and sometimes controversy, and in some cases were credited with bringing about larger awareness to the issues they spotlighted. For issues-focused documentary filmmakers, and I don't know why they don't just call it progressive, woke filmmakers, because that's of course what it is. There's only one side to an issue that a company like Participant will ever show, will ever focus, will ever get you thinking about. But it's part of their agenda to present their issues as the only social issues. There are no issues unless it comes from these people. Participant was an ally, a champion, and a deep-pocketed backer willing to tackle tough subjects in an increasingly commercialized nonfiction environment. But now, as industry-wide cost-cutting and corporate consolidation have hit even the once booming documentary sector, some filmmakers see the end of Participant as part of a larger trend. Of course it's part of a larger trend. It's not just Participant. If it was just a small money issue thing, he'd put the money aside. He wouldn't care. He could throw $50 or $100 million behind this and just let it roll on the invested money. But it's losing money, and it's going to need more money. And it's not just this company. The whole sector is collapsing. Quote, "The ecosystem for serious social issue documentaries was already challenging before today. And as of today, it just got a lot more challenging," says RGB and My Name is Pauline Murray co-director Julie Cohen in an interview. Quote, "It is just not easy to get a documentary on a serious issue developed, let alone funded, let alone distributed out into the world. And Participant was one of the major avenues for that happening, and also one of the best. So to have them disappear is devastating. And I'm not a bad guy, I'm a nice guy. I don't like to see people devastated, but I do like to see the woke agenda fall apart at the seams. I do like to see people who are billionaires who could afford to continue something like this, even though it's obviously losing lots of money. Just say, you know what, enough with you guys already. No one's really buying into our nonsense. No one really actually believes this. The liberal people already believe this, so to lose another 20, 50, $100 million doing this and waste all this time with it, trying to figure out how to make it actually work, is not worth the backer's time. He'd rather just blow his money in another way. Maybe blow it on himself. Maybe go on a vacation. Who knows what he's going to do with it? But he's not going to be wasting it on woke movies anymore. And the truth is, if any of these liberal billionaires or multimillionaire actors decided this was important and they wanted to see it continue, they could write checks for things like this. They could make movie deals where they expected the studio to finance things like this. They could attach a project and say, look, I've got a social documentary that I need you to guarantee you will produce and or distribute, in addition to making a deal with me for my film rate to do a project for you. Are actors doing that? No, because they're focused on themselves. And really, they should be focused on themselves. They don't need to focus on this nonsense. But they would sure love to have an investor burn his money on their silly propaganda projects rather than have to pay for it themselves. Margaret Brown, who worked with the company on 2014's The Great Invisible and 2022's Descendant, wrote in an email, quote, "They were not like any other company in the way that art and activism were partnered." Indeed, as former participant CEO Jim Burke once told The Hollywood Reporter in 2010 about the philosophy of the company, quote, "A film could lose money, but actually be profitable for us in terms of its impact on the issue. So they're not going to go ahead and waste that money anymore. Billionaires have to hold on to their dollars." Participants' track record of making purpose-driven documentaries that could find an audience helped smooth the way for those kinds of stories in the marketplace. Participants' former chief content officer, Diane Wireman, formerly a public interest lawyer and the head of the Sundance Institute's documentary program, was legendary in nonfiction circles for her taste and her advocacy for films she believed in. Wireman championed An Inconvenient Truth even after executives at one major studio fell asleep during an early screening. Guggenheim recalled to the New York Times in 2021, "Just wait till Sundance," he recalls her saying, "not giving up." To have Wireman choose to work on a film entailed a certain level of prestige that had practical implications, said filmmaker Dawn Porter, who worked with the company on 2020's John Lewis' Good Trouble. Participant helped to distribute that film, and she sat on its board of directors. Quote, "That meant something in the marketplace. Participant has vetted this and selected this for you. It was kind of like being selected for Criterion," Porter said. Not only that, but Participant was willing to invest in these stories. Quote, "If you're a buyer and you have a well-respected curatorial company that's also putting money in, that film gets to the top of the consideration list," Porter notes. So the investment in the film allowed Participant to use Participant's credibility for having made these documentaries for so many years to push that film into the marketplace. But not anymore, because the company is dead now. Another quality that distinguished Participant for its justice-focused documentaries was that the company had an entire department dedicated to impact campaigns, outreach programs that attempted to get audiences further engaged in the core issues of the film. Cohen notes that for RBG, Participant organized hundreds of screenings around the country for various groups over several months in 2018, connecting the film's portrait of the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the larger feminist movement amid the Donald Trump presidency. So all of this is, of course, just political activism. Quote, "There really was no one else that could do a huge, full-blown engagement and impact campaign in the way that Participant did for a documentary," Cohen said. In the summer of 2018, RBG became a surprise box office success, racking up over $14 million in the US. And if you say, well, what do you mean $14 million? That doesn't really sound like a lot of money for a movie. It's not a lot of money for a movie. Documentaries have a lower budget, but to put all this time and energy into trying to produce something that's going to maybe do $14 million in the United States, no, it's not worth it for this company, and that's why it's shut down. Filmmaker Robert Kenner was in the middle of his campaign for this year's Food Incorporated 2, about the corporate consolidation of the food industry, when the news broke on Tuesday that Participant was shuttering. He had just spent time in Washington, D.C. with the film, holding a screening for congresspeople including Senator John Tester and Senator Cory Booker, who both appear in the film, and taking meetings with the Food and Drug Administration and the White House about front-of-package food labeling analogous to systems in Chile, Mexico, and Canada. Quote, "Those are ongoing meetings, and I'm not sure how they will be affected post their breakup." So that's the one thing that's of concern more than the release of the film. which is being handled by Magnolia Pictures, he said. Meanwhile, as Participant shuts down, the options for documentaries about weighty subjects appear to be narrowing after major mergers and an industry-wide contraction. In 2022, the same year that Discovery merged with Warner Brothers, CNN Films behind Blackfish, The Hunting Ground, and Navalny cut back on commissioning projects from outside partners, while its nascent streamer CNN Plus also shut down. Showtime laid off the documentary head who presided over 2022's We Need to Talk About Cosby and 2016 to 2023's The Circus as it merged with MTV Entertainment Studios last year, while HBO has cut back and feels like it's on hold, according to Kenner. Netflix, whose longtime head of documentaries and indies exited in 2023, downsized its originals release slate in 2023, according to reporting from Bloomberg. For Gita Gambhir, the co-director of 2022's Participant co-produced Lowndes County and The Road to Black Power, the current contraction feels like a return to an earlier time. Gambhir recalled there were maybe two places that you could go to get your documentary funded and or distributed, which was PBS and then HBO. That changed in the 2010s, and the rise of streamers resulted in a spike of nonfiction titles, especially those with broad commercial potential, like celebrity and sports stories and true crime tales. Obviously, we're seeing the inability to monetize documentaries to again make it something as profitable as was hoped for, Gambhir said. With Participant going away, it feels a little bit like the canary in the coal mine. It feels like we're going back to that time period where people are having to really look for other ways to fund their documentaries. If it seems like that, then yes, it's true. These documentaries that are just there to push an agenda that don't really have commercial value are not going to go forward. Netflix was wasting money hand over fist on content. Netflix is getting sharper and sharper as time goes on. They want a return on their investment for content. Netflix is such a big winner in the streaming business, they no longer need to provide subscriber numbers to get the confidence of Wall Street. From The Hollywood Reporter, Netflix has stopped providing subscriber numbers in 2025, marking an end of an era in streaming wars. Because there is no more streaming war. Netflix won. It's over. That's it. That doesn't put their competitors out of business. It just puts their competitors so far behind them that no one really takes their competitors seriously, especially not Netflix. Hollywood is cutting back severely. They don't have extra resources to push propaganda-driven films right now. Whether it's the streamers or the studios, they're not going forward with this anymore. They're starting to look at the bottom line and really just report what's going on the bottom line. Participant was a film studio that, as they said in 2010, was willing to finance projects if they made a difference in the culture. They didn't even care if the projects actually made money or not. Well, there's just so long that can go on for. I don't know how much money this billionaire lost financing this Participant movie studio, but I guarantee you he does, and he's decided, okay, I will make a difference. Maybe I'll donate to people or something, but I can't do this anymore. And no one else has stepped in to cover his losses. So we see the healthy end of a movie studio that's not focused on money. It's only focused on agenda. Good to see them go. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.